Alex in Oklahoma. Pronouns are she, them. Welcome, Alex. It says here you used to be a witch and want to explain why people believe and why you used to.
Yeah, so essentially I live in an area of the world, the U.S., that is really religious, and specifically Methodist and Baptist. So, and I don't know, there was just something about it that I couldn't buy, but it was just, I didn't know that I had an option to not believe. So one day I had become friends with a pagan. They explained how their pagan beliefs worked. And so one of the distinctions between paganism and Wicca and witchcraft is that paganism is forms of religion. So like you have the Greek pantheon and all that. Wicca is a form of paganism, and witchcraft it can be related to paganism, but I was an atheist witch. And I specifically slid into that because just something I could connect with the pagan with, and then with the idea that energies are connected, and then through witchcraft, you take those energies and you use them to manifest things. It just was something to connect with them, and with what information I had at the time, it made sense. I specifically did kitchen witchcraft, and essentially the easiest explanation for kitchen witchcraft is taking herbs, food, and manifesting power into those, into creating outcomes for people and individuals. I ended up going into cooking and everything in the profession, and what ended up having me slide out of witchcraft was the fact that the more I studied food and cooking and the science around culinary, the more I realized what I was noticing wasn't magic at all. It was just the natural properties of these herbs. So like some are anti-inflammatory, some are inflammatory, different ingredients do different things to the body, and that's just dietetics. There's nothing magical about it. That's just chemical interactions in the body. So that's kind of how I slid into that. I also did tarot cards and stuff for a bit. But again, there was no real evidence that I found that really could substantiate, reading the future or anything like that. It was, it ended up kind of lining up with cold reading, and I didn't really slide out of witchcraft until I met someone who identified as agnostic. And then I just found out that there's this whole group of belief where you actually don't have to believe in anything, and it's okay just to not know things.
Awesome. So I've heard some of this stuff before, and I'm glad you addressed it. Go ahead, John.
Oh, I was just when you were describing kitchen witchcraft, I thought of the movie Practical Magic. I don't know if anybody knows. Mm-hmm. Yeah. I thought of Practical Magic in that. So
the thing is, they actually got actual evidence of what they were doing was having an effect.
Yeah, they did. But it's kind of interesting. Was there any what's the you said that the whole idea of not believing in anything kind of appealed to you, but was there anything that person said in particular that sort of persuaded you away, or was it just like a culmination of different things?
It was more of just a culmination of different things. I'm also just a naturally curious person. So whenever they said that not believing was an option, I was like, well, I got to know more about this. And so luckily around this time, the internet and everything was a thing. So I essentially just really did a deep dive into what is atheism, what is agnosticism, are they different, are they the same? And then I paired that with learning more about science and learning more again about my craft and what I do for a living. And then it just kind of all fell into place. Well, there's no good reason to believe this. And then when I kind of talked with my pagan friend about this, one of the differences between the pagans and the Christians is they didn't shun me. They didn't make me feel bad about myself. They just accepted that I had changed my mind. And so I had some support as well to shift out of that.
Yeah. And that's, I mean, I've never cut anybody out of my life because they're pagan. I Well, I don't have, to be fair, I haven't cut anybody out of my life because they're Christian or because they're Muslim or because they're Hindu either. The people that have cut out of my life, and there's only a tiny handful, have violated my trust or done something egregious to me or someone, I'm close to or care about. It's not, despite what people think, I mean, you're watching me on shows have arguments and disagreements, and sometimes they get heated. I have no problem at all being friends with people and associating with people who don't agree with me. I'm going to disagree with everybody about something. Who the hell wants to be alone? So it kind of becomes this is not a big deal. And so I can draw a distinction between saying, okay, when you say you're doing tarot readings, please demonstrate that there's anything remotely true there. Cause I've done that. I use tarot cards in the act. As a matter of fact, in the magic shows, somebody bought me a great deck of the tarot of the white cats. And so in case anybody was afraid of tarot cards, they're just every card has a white cat on it. So, here's the Prince of Cups or whatever. And it's this cute cat drawing, and it's amazing. It's a good little deck, but, and I can do demonstrations on stage that can make it look like, oh, there's something actually magical going on. And it's me understanding how a lot of that works and how, despite what people think, magicians don't fool you. You fool yourself. They just know how to exploit knowing things that you don't know to get you to fool yourself. They're leading you down a pathway so that you reach the wrong conclusion that they want you to reach. And seeing that, you would think, and now those magicians are well represented in the skeptic community. My deceased acquaintance, James Randi, who we did a show with and stuff, but not all magicians are skeptics. So despite the fact that you can know this stuff, you can still be fooled. Doug Henning was famously into transcendental meditation and thought that he had found a cure for his disease and that he could fly. And of course he died. But he had he'd sent a letter to Randy about that just before he died. I'm not surprised that there are people who have no expertise in deception like that, who will buy into things. Because if I can get you to fool yourself, surely you can do it on your own just by saying, and you kind of described it a little bit, Alex, you were saying it wasn't so much about, oh, there was evidence this is true. It's this is the thing that made sense about energy and everything else. And given the information that you had and how you felt, oh, of course that makes sense. Of course that's the way energy works. And why wouldn't it be this way? And of course, if I make this particular, put these ingredients together, the energies here are going to have this particular effect on someone. It all just makes sense. And it makes sense in the same way that countless pseudoscientific things have made sense. Homeopathy makes sense, except that it turns out water doesn't have a memory and that there's no active ingredient left and that like doesn't cure like. So the three principles of homeopathy are dead from the get-go. But phrenology, the notion that there are bumps on your head, you can tell stuff, or reading the lines on your palm. Hey, they're all different and we have different lives and our lives contribute to this. You can make kind of a post hoc rationalization where it makes perfect sense. So I appreciate you calling in to talk about that, and glad you found your way out. What advice would you have, Alex, for the other people who are involved in this, who would you have any advice? Live your best life, do whatever you want? Or is it, hey, look for evidence? I don't know.
I guess my advice really would just be stay curious, never stop questioning things. And just because something isn't magical doesn't mean it's not beautiful.
Amen.
Life in general is fantastic. So there's, no reason that we have to find magic when the world is already fantastic.
Oh, I love that. It has annoyed me forever. And there's an old adage about, why is a flower garden more beautiful if you think God made it? Because I'm like, God could make a flower that could make you die from the best orgasm ever and go straight to heaven the second you saw it. Why can't a flower just be beautiful as it is? Why can't, other things that people might consider ugly? I watched a video the other day on sand dunes, and just the beauty of moving those grains of sand around and the forms and the swirls that I find beauty everywhere. I don't need it to be magical. So I love that you said that. Thank you, Alex.
Matt, please don't give God any. Oh,
No, you're good.
Sorry. Thank you for calling in, Alex.
All right. Having a great night, guys.
Later.
All right. You too.
We got,
you really don't need to, you don't need to give God any kind of ideas about orgasmic flowers that'll kill you on the spot. Okay. I think we've got enough problems here on earth already.
I'm telling you, I'm not sure I'd be opposed. But she also mentioned Practical Magic, and I noticed some other people in chat were saying that they love that movie. I love that movie, and not for the reason a lot of people suspect. Yes, I absolutely had a crush on everybody in that movie. I think. Oh well.
So Sandra
I've had a
Bullock,
crush on Stockard Channing since Grease. And so I loved her in Practical Magic. I loved her in West Wing. And so most people would be like, oh, Matt had a thing for Sandra Bullock or Nicole Kidman, which is true. I thought they were both beautiful and loved their movies. But I liked Practical Magic for the humor and for Stockard Channing.